We oftentimes say we don't take on books, we take on people, because oftentimes the success of a book has something to do with the author's ability to sell and promote themselves before the public in some way.
This is Ron Pramshafer, and welcome to Publishing Basics Radio, where weekly we try to help you navigate the self-publishing minefield. So, Eric, what's a book distributor?
What's a book distributor?
Yeah, kind of a silly question, but
I've always said it's a publishing services company. It's not a wholesaler. Let's start with the negative. It's not a wholesaler. A wholesaler really is in the business of servicing bookstores, whereas we're in the business of servicing publishers from a distribution, sales, and marketing point of view. So they're sort of hybrid companies. They're outsources for publishers who are not big enough or strong enough in the marketplace to have their own sales, their own distribution center. But when it's effective, it's extremely effective, and it sort of simulates what one would have if you were a bigger publisher and you were Simon & Schuster, you were Random House or Viking Penguin. So,
okay, is it safe to say you sell books?
The essential of what we do is we're a very powerful sales organization selling the book trade, Barnes & Noble, Borders, the big wholesalers, Ingram, Baker & Taylor, and other accounts around the country, utilizing the same sales concept that the big companies use.
Okay, in a place like Ingram or Baker & Taylor, everybody seems to know about them. They're wholesalers or are they distributors?
We're in a changing environment right now.
Mm-hmm.
Ingram has traditionally, since 1970, been a wholesaler, traditional wholesaler, selling bookstores all over the country. Last year, they embarked on a new program where they are providing the same distribution services that we provide or any of the other companies provide on a brand new model. They had tried this back in the late 80s. It did not work out well for them, and they have a new model which I'm very encouraged by. I think that they've got an excellent model right now.
Oh, okay. A wholesaler, generally, I stepped in that one. Oh, as far as Ingram is doing both. Like a typical wholesaler, like I guess Baker & Taylor. The difference between a wholesaler and, say, a distributor, is they don't really make sales, right?
That's too negative. Actually,
okay.
A wholesaler is critical to the success of this business. And the distinction is this, that the real market that Ingram is going after and Baker & Taylor is going after is the marketplace they're selling to. So whether it's libraries or independent bookstores or the big chains, they design all of their systems to supply and to satisfy the requirements of these accounts. We think of it just the opposite of that. We think our value in this kind of equation is to the publisher. We get involved with the book way before it comes out, 6, 7, 8 months before it comes back. We contribute to the discussion on pricing and jackets and other issues and marketing issues before we even go out and sell the book. So our design is somewhat similar to the design of a sales department within a larger publishing house. We sell to Ingram and bookstores just like Ingram does, but we don't see that as our driving purpose in life. So I just think it's a matter of emphasis. Also, we don't sell every book in the United States, which Ingram tries to do.
Mm-hmm.
We sell the people that are under contract with us, which are about 250 publishers.
Okay, let's say we'll put aside what I have to do to qualify to be, one of your publishers, but let's just start like from the beginning. You just signed me up.
Right.
What happens?
If the publisher is not experienced and is not coming from another distributor, we start to educate them very quickly in the norms of this business so that they can start to conform to the way this business operates. Now, the example that we generally use with publishers is if you want your book in Barnes & Noble, then we have to have information, ready to sell information about 4 to 5 months prior to your pub date. That's how much lead time they need. And if we don't have that much time, then we're going to miss the budget for that month. In other words, we're not going to be able to get the book in up front before publication, which is one of the things that we do. So we think that that is one thing that a lot of independent publishers have no notion about. They don't have contact with Barnes & Noble. They don't know what the norms are, what the procedures and rules and regs are of Barnes & Noble. Well, that's one of them. Another one is having plenty of material for our sales reps to know, to show the buyer. because the buyer doesn't make a buying decision just when we're there. They basically stack up these books, and then they make it kind of a universal decision at the end of the month, and it's based on what the rep says, who the company is representing, what the book is, what the promise was, and what the material looks like. So if you have a jacket that just doesn't, a book jacket that doesn't measure up, that looks like it was designed by a friend of the family or something, that's going to really, if the budget's tight and they don't have enough money to fulfill all the promises, the likelihood of having that buy cut or eliminated altogether goes way up. So what we do is we try to get the best material into our hands as possible. We work on this face-to-face with our publishers, meaning not at a sales conference, but on the phone and in other ways, so that they know what they're meant to do and when they're meant to do it, so that they benefit from the optimal results that we would achieve for them, whether it's 100 books or 10,000 books as the upfront buy.
You mentioned you have salespeople. The salespeople make sales calls.
Right.
Does a salesperson make a call and sit down with, say, the Ingram's buyer?
Absolutely, every month.
Okay, and then what would go on at you represent, a lot of different, say, 250 publishers. Okay.
Well, I can tell you because up until November last year, I'm the president of Midpoint, and one of my jobs here was to sell Ingram. So up until November of last year, when I fired myself from that job, I know what went on a face-to-face basis. One of the things that's unusual with our company is all the principals, all the owners are salespeople here. So I was one of the salespeople, and our publishers love that because these are not anonymous people. These are people that intimately are involved with the success and the growth and the so on and so forth with our company. In terms of Ingram, the whole sales relationship is based on knowledge and trust and judgment. So when I work with our buyer at Ingram, or when I did work with our buyer, it was so much of the trust element was a predicate for everything that followed. So I would come in there really with what I thought that book with 60 days of inventory was worth for a particular book. If we didn't have much marketing information, if it looked like it was going to be a slow mover, we went with very small quantities so that we weren't generating an automatic return 70 days later. If it's a big book with a tremendous amount behind it, with shows that are going to feature the author or other issues, these are front list books, obviously not backlist, which gets another kind of treatment. Then you go for a bigger number because the demand for that book is going to be somewhat higher for those 60 days. Ingram is not looking to hold inventory for more than 60 days because they owe us money for those books. They ideally want to have sold those books out of their warehouse and reordered.
Okay, so mainly the salesperson has the relationship with the buyer.
Right. The
buyer, on the salesperson's recommendation, so to speak, will stock a book.
Right.
And obviously, if it doesn't sell, it comes back.
Oh, that's absolutely right.
So back to what's required. You mentioned materials and all. I mean, this is all when you talk with a publisher, this is something that the publisher would pay for and supply.
Yeah, but let me go backwards here a little bit because there's a few doors that everything has to get through in order for us to get in front of the buyer. Number one, tons of publishers come to us and say, will you distribute our books? And for the most part, probably 90-95% of the time, we say no. Why do we say no? We say no because we don't want to be sitting with a buyer with something that's not going to sell. In our judgment, now, I don't have a window into what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. I'm no different than anybody else. But I have 35 years of experience in this business. I was the head of sales at Simon & Schuster at one time. That doesn't make me smart, but it shows that I've worked within the framework of this business.
Okay, so what do I need to do now? I was going to get to this later, but I might as well get to it now. What do I need to do as a new publisher? Okay.
Well, what opens the door here, is the quality of what they're sending us. The fact that they might know somebody I know, because I'm the first, my executive assistant and I are the first kind of door they have to get through. A phone call in here something that is a little bit personal so that I can get a sense of the story. Not the book, but the story, the person behind the book. We oftentimes say we don't take on books, we take on people.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes the success of a book has something to do with the author's ability to sell and promote themselves before the public in some way. And we've seen tons of examples of that. Sometimes the product speaks for itself, but nothing quite speaks for itself. It's an extension of the imagination, intelligence, ability of an individual or a group of individuals. That's what a book is, between paper and boards. And that's what we want to, in part, look at. Now, if some established publisher comes to us with $2 million or $3 million or $5 million worth of business, which doesn't happen very frequently, but if that came, then another criteria has to come in on board. Can we handle it? That's a good question too. Are we the appropriate distributor for these people? They already know they already know the business.
Okay. Generally, I'm talking more about the small. Say I'm a pro golfer, and I'm left-handed, and I decide to write a book on an instructional book on how to play golf left-handed.
Right.
So I've got their credentials. The book is good. You look at it. It looks like something that might work. Got you to have a nice warm fuzzy feeling about me.
Mm-hmm.
What happens then?
If we were interested and we thought there was potential and we weren't kidding ourselves, and we aren't usually, what we would do is offer that person a contract, which is usually a 1 or 2 year contract to provide the sales, marketing, distribution services of Midpoint Trade Books on their behalf for a period of time for a percentage of sales that varies based on who the publisher is. And
is there a typical percentage?
It varies. It's in the 20s somewhere. So say mid-20s, 25%, 24%, 26%. One book publishers sometimes are as high as 28%. They usually don't go to 30%.
Okay, now that's in contrast. Some people know about places, I believe it's like Biblio charges a discount off of the top number, which includes their commission. So yours is basically your commission is after the sale, or...
Right, and if you do the simple math, if you have a $20 retail, we sell it for about $10 or 50% off 20, and so now we're dealing with $10, and that's where the percentage comes off of, not the $20, but the $10.
Okay, and is 50 all discount pretty typical out there?
It is.
And also like a Barnes and Noble, Borders, they're working.
On average, it works within that framework. Yeah, pretty close.
Okay, and I'm the left-handed golfer again now, right? And I've got this book. You've got the confidence that you can sell to your people. If you tell them to buy the book, they're going to buy the book anyhow. If I go in and I tell you, look, I got everything wrapped up in this book. It's edited. It's beautifully designed. I got 10,000 of them sitting in a garage, but I'm all out of money. Eric, can you help me?
Maybe not.
If I say, but my next door neighbor is Oprah Winfrey, and she says she's going to put me on tomorrow.
I've made a lot of comments about the book business, but it never was a business. It wasn't a business really well designed for people that don't have a lot of money. There has to be some level of capital. What do you call it? Capital you can spend, and if you don't get it back, not feel badly about it. In the good old days, it was not a rich person's business, but it was certainly, it requires capital.
Mm-hmm.
And so the person that comes to us with that golf book you're talking about and has no money to spend on it, we would probably, say, well, and 10,000 books, which we never would have recommended they print, they wrapped up all their money in 10,000 books, and that shows bad judgment. I just don't know if I would get involved with that.
If you do get involved, success is sort of relative, to people. If you do get involved with a book, what would you hope to be able to sell for you to have figured that it was a good idea on your end?
Well, I think for an independent publisher, I think if you can sell through the book trade, then we hope that our publishers are selling in other markets as well, and that we represent maybe only 50% of their overall sales results.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say a book that sells 5,000 copies is a very good book.
Oh, that's good. I think people will be happy to hear that, actually. And you mentioned you hoped that you were only like 50% of their sales. So Do you have an exclusive within a certain area, or?
No, we're different. We only take the accounts we actually sell, which is about 25 accounts, and the rest of it's open.
Very good. Well, that's encouraging for everyone, then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Eric, it was very nice talking to you today.
Well, thank you.
I think I learned a few things.
Well, I did too, actually, by listening to myself. It's
amazing. Every once in a while we have to do that. For Publishing Basics Radio, this is Ron Pramshafer. See you next week.